I'm sifting out a bunch of flour, from which I will measure. I already did this once, so I'm not doing the whole thing again. I will measure 6 cups. I'm also going to put in a teaspoon and a half of salt. Okay, and now I'm going to put in a half a pound of butter and a half a pound of margarine. But actually, I think I'll do 3 sticks to 1 this time, just because I can. I have never made a pie crust in Cuisinart, because I have this wonderful method that I like, but I promise one day I will try it and see why so many people like to do it that way. I just like those surprise pockets of butter, instead of everything being uniform. Doing this for the camera makes me realize that I'm really crazy. What? You're not using the Cuisinart? No, I'm not. I just try to cut all the pieces of butter into smaller pieces. Not like pea-sized or anything, but you'll see. And the reason I do it with this cutter is that I don't actually touch it so it doesn't start to melt the butter, and I usually start with frozen butter. So while you've been away, I've been cutting up butter, and now I'm getting ready to squish the butter. This is the really fun part, when you make the sheets of butter. I'm just going to do this one more time, and then it's going to go in the freezer. These are cherries from Hungary, but they're sour pitted cherries packed in water. So this is a very simple powder. This filling recipe is actually given to me by Virginia Lovelace, who used to cook for Norman Rockwell, and whose daughter Amy cooks at the Dream Away Lodge. And it's from Good Housekeeping in 1922. So it's 3/4 of a cup of sugar, 3 tablespoons of flour, a pinch of salt, and some almond extract when you put it together. But you could make this powder, for example, in advance, and then you would have it in a jar anytime you needed it to make a pie. I think I'll use the old-fashioned enamel tin as opposed to the French tins, which I also love, or the heavy one. We'll just go all American here. One of those treasures you find at the transfer station.
Pie tins?
Yeah. My favorite cheesecake pan came from there too. So, oh, by the way, here I'm adding a little bit of water.
Cold?
Cold water. You can get really fussy about it and use ice water. So I just kind of pick it up and drop it and pick it up and pinch my fingers. I love fingers. They're great tools. When we make granola, I'm always telling them, use your fingers like a rake. It's just a question of a feel for, you want just enough water for it to come together, and you want not so much water that it stays together. And what I mean by that is if it goes together really easily, then you've probably got too much water in it. I don't see what's so wonderful about a pie crust that just is so amenable that, you know, nothing falls off the edge, there's no holes in the middle. I mean, it's just perfectly easy to work with that way, but is it really going to make as nice a crust? Because I see all these little spots of butter layering, but I think it's going to make it great. But here's one thing I found out. It's a little bit small. No problem. I can make more. Fill in the edges. How thick do you like your crust around the edges? Gluing, patching. I like that. Even though this really hasn't gotten as cold as I would normally like it, I'm just going to go ahead and make it into the lattice top as well. So I'll have a little bit to do the edging, and I'll have a little bit for the lattice top. And I'm doing the same thing again, which is drip, 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 pinch. And I'm getting dirty. Probably can't see it through that water, can you? Because someone can tell you that you should put 1 tablespoon of water in or 2 tablespoons of water in, but is it dry in your house? Is it a rainstorm outside? Those are really the things that are going to affect your crust. Is it hot outside? So I'm going to put a little bit aside just for that edging, but I might not even need it. Just depends. Because when I'm rolling for a lattice, I don't roll it round, I roll it rectangular. And I roll it as wide as I'd like the strips to be at the widest part. So then I'm just going to cut some strips. And I like big, thick strips. And I don't care if they're all the same. So there they are. And I don't have to wait until my pie is filled to make the lattice. I'm just going to go along.
So can you just talk me through what the layering?
It's a braid, right? Right.
Okay.
And you know, this is a pretty thick top. I like thicker on top and thinner on the bottom myself, but that's your choice too. So let's see, I think I'll put one more bit right here. And then I'm just going to trim it. And I just used to do this by the hundreds, and we'd wrap them and stack them and freeze them and pull them out, plop them on top of a pie. And that was a good way to do it. It's pretty good. I mean, when it's all covered with bubbly cherry juice, it'll be fine. This is about a cup worth of flour, sugar, and salt. And normally, we would add some almond flavoring, but I'm gonna leave it plain this time. So put 1/3 of the dust, 1/2 of the cherries, 1/3 of the dust, give or take. It's all going to get mushed together anyway. The rest of the cherries. And there's always a cherry that has a pit still in it. It's just the way it is. But I already ate the one with the pit in it for this pie, so the rest of the pie is safe. And then I'm going to take my little thing, which would be frozen normally, but is not. I'm just going to slide it off. And there it is. There's plenty of room for the juice to bubble up. If you want to brush, break up an egg and brush it with an egg, sure, that's okay. But here we go, right into the oven. What's for dinner, Mom? But like I said, I'm going to put it back in for the juices to firm up.
Okay.
This is just a photo op.